but we will start with Chris Rock. Remember, we always have our journey at the beginning of a new unit. And today we have another GED earner, Chris Rock. Lots of us are familiar with Chris Rock. So Chris Rock took pain and turned it into humor. Rock attended a mostly all-white public school while growing up in Brooklyn, New York. He faced discrimination at an early age. That discrimination, however, influenced the comedic material often on display in his act, on television, and in his movies. As a young comedian, Rock decided to leave school to perform on the New York club circuit. In 1984, fellow comedian Eddie Murphy, by then himself a success on television and in movies, caught Rock's act. Murphy cast Rock in a small role in Beverly Hills Cop 2, marking the beginning of an entertainment career that continues to this day. Rock, then only 18, had caught his big break. From 1990 to 1993, Rock starred on Saturday Night Live. He later worked on films such as Dogma, Lethal Weapon 4, Madagascar, and Grown Ups. Rock authored a book called Rock This and created and produced the television series Everybody Hates Chris. The show was inspired by Rock's childhood in Brooklyn. Rock's comedic talents resulted in Grammy Awards and Emmy Awards. Whatever the form of media, Rock uses his comedy to tackle topics such as race, politics, and parenting. Despite his successes, Rock always strives to improve his craft. As he notes, if you think you're good, there's only one way to really be good, and that's to be around the best and learn. You need to learn more. Right. Does not seem like it was that long ago that he was on Saturday Night Live. I was still in high school, somewhere in that frame. Okay, so career highlights: raised in Brooklyn, traveled the New York Comedy Club circuit extensively as a teenager, starred on the sketch comedy show Saturday Night Live, acted in dozens of films and voiced animated characters in several others, created the semi-autobiographical sitcom Everybody Hates Chris. So moving into our last unit here, and right away we see editing. So this is why I wanted to bounce over to this before we finish up our extended responses, because editing is going to be part of when you review your draft. And as it says, good writing is not only interesting and persuasive, it is also displays a command of standard English conventions. The GED Reasoning Through Language Arts test includes an editing portion that tests essential components of grammar, usage, capitalization, and punctuation. In Unit 4, you will practice these skills in order to improve your writing and test-taking ability. Like the GED test, this unit asks you to edit the types of text that you encounter or produce in your daily life, including workplace letters, memos, letters to the editor, flyers, and descriptions of policies and activities, beginning with lessons on the building blocks of usage, such as proper use of verb tenses and subject-verb agreement. You will move on to lessons in which you will practice techniques that will provide you with the tools you need to build strong sentences. Most test items in this unit will appear as alternatives within drop-down menus, simulating the editing experience you will have on the GED test. So we've seen this a couple times where we got like the paragraph, and then you just have the drop-down boxes with the answer. So we're going to see that a lot more in this unit. And the thing about good writing mechanics and grammar, it doesn't matter what language you learn or you started with and then you're learning another one, they all have rules. And when we speak conversationally, we take for granted that people understand the context. We get lazy. We all do it, whether it's slang or using the passive voice or a verb noun agreement or whatever it may be. And it doesn't hinder the way we communicate in person with a lot of people. But when you're writing, the reader doesn't know anything about you necessarily or the context, and very simple little mistakes sometimes can either really clutter the meaning of a sentence and confuse a reader, or it might even be nonsensical. Even when you hear it in your head, though, sometimes it sounds okay. So that's the whole idea of this last section, is sort of ironing out that, so when we write, it's just clearer communication. In English, of course, like I said, every language you learn has rules. English, we have all these rules, and then we immediately break them, and we have lots of exceptions to those rules, which makes it a little bit of a difficult language to learn. One of the harder languages to learn as a second or third language, but we'll work through all of that over the next few weeks. And then it says here, by the time you complete the lesson, you will be able to define and identify a noun, define and identify collective nouns, and use nouns correctly in writing. So let's take a listen to our audio.
Nouns are words that name people, places, ideas, or things. Nouns may be singular, one person, place, idea, or thing, or plural, more than one person, place, idea, or thing. Proper nouns are names of specific people, places, titles, or things. Proper nouns are always capitalized. Dr. Anna Jones, Arkansas, Bill of Rights. Collective nouns are nouns that name groups, such as team or jury. They may be singular or plural, depending on whether the group acts as a unit or whether members of the group act as individuals.
All right, took a second there to send out a text, see where everybody is, because you guys are going to get picked on a lot today if it's the only two of you. But and again, though, it's not; these aren't bad lessons. So anyhow, let me get the cat here. Oh, you menace! Get off the table. Okay. So nouns, right? A person, place, or thing, right? That's always what a noun is. Proper nouns, right? The way to always think about proper nouns and capitalization is, does it talk about a specific person, place, or thing? Matt Johnson, proper noun. Ohio, right? A specific place, proper noun. Those are really good examples that they use there. Bill of Rights, certain documents and things, the Holy Bible, right? Things like that, the Quran, anything like that is going to be capitalized. And then collective nouns get a little tricky because, like it says that, it's a group. So it's not necessarily plural because it's talking about a larger entity. So the army, right? It consists of a collection of people and things. But it's, it's like it kind of says there, collective noun. It's taking a collection of things and giving it one identity. And we'll see how that works here as we get into our lesson. So here, right, some few rules. And of course, I'll get some, I'll save these images and put them on Google Classroom to help you guys along, and any other sort of things I find online, any images, any, tips or tricks or anything for grammar and mechanics, I'll pass that along on Classroom for you guys. So here, singular to plural, here's one of those rules I was talking about. It gets kind of complicated, right? We tend to add S to make a noun plural. So most nouns, right? Book, message, like it says, books, messages, computer, computers, phone, phones. I'm looking around at my desk here and seeing what I could use. Pen, pens, right? Simply just add S, especially when there's a consonant at the end. Now, things get a little trickier when we start looking at things like vowels at the end. So add ES to certain, and again, right, there's always exceptions, certain nouns ending in O. So here, hero, potato, you add that ES to make it plural. So heroes, potatoes. There was a gentleman by the name of Dan Quell who was our vice president for George H.W. Bush, who got in trouble with, I think, like a third or fourth grader, because they were doing he was in class with him, and they were doing like a spelling bee, and they asked this child to spell potato, just the singular, and the child, went right to it, Potato. And Mr. Vice President was like, no, it's Potato. And there was a few weeks there where, he was the butt of, he tended to be a butt of a lot of jokes, but his intelligence was often called into question, and that just added to it. So yeah, potato ends in O. When you make it plural, you're going to add the ES there. So, anytime it ends in a consonant, you tend to just add S. But if you have like a vowel sound or something, you get into a little bit of a different, some rule changes and things. Here's another one, right? So add ES to nouns that end in CH, SH, SS, or X, right? So you have to have a little bit of a delineation, right? You have to add something in there to understand the difference, especially when it comes to that double S sound. So church, you have churches, because churches, you can't even really, in English, make a sound where you just put an S at the end of that. So that helps distinguish between the singular and plural. Same thing with class, right? Class turns to classes. Glass turns to glasses. Things like that. And then nouns ending in Y, right? Here's another tricky one. After a consonant. So after a consonant, you eliminate the Y and you add IES. So they're examples, right? Perfect examples, city and body. So cities and bodies, right? You just eliminate the Y and add IES. Now, when it comes to a noun that ends in Y but is preceded by a vowel. So boy, day. So you just add S at that point. Boys, days. There's a difference. Consonant, IES, drop the Y. Vowel, just add S. Here's some other fun ones, right? So nouns ending in F or FE, we drop the FE and add VES. So we're changing a lot there. So shelf becomes shelves, knife becomes knives. Really changing, the overall structure of that word. And then some you just change, they change in form. Man to men, woman to women, child to children. There's no, you don't say childs. I tease my daughter and call her that sometimes. But we change it from child to children. And then some nouns you just don't change at all. So that's fun too. So there's a whole bunch where you don't add anything for whatever reason. Deer, right? Fish, moose, things like that. They stand alone, whether it's singular or plural. It's the same. So this is where things kind of get tricky, particularly in the English language, with the rules for things like pluralization. Collective nouns. So this is what I was talking about, right? So a singular, right? Whether you're talking about the individual people in there or the singular version. So as it says, the army fights. If you're talking about it in a plural sense, where you're discussing, how can I word this? Discussing the individual components or the group of components in that collective noun, then you'd use a plural like the soldiers in the army fight. And that is addressing verb noun agreement, right? Where you're plural for your subject and your verb have to match. We're going to talk about that more later. But here, right, so as
Okay.
a singular, army fights, that collective noun is in the singular form. The soldiers, right, when we're talking about the soldiers in the army, it becomes plural, and we drop the S from our verb. Right. And again, we'll get into more verb noun agreement down the road here. Same thing here, but just keep in mind, as a collective noun, if you're only talking about the group, right, it's in that singular form. If I'm only mentioning the entirety of the army or the entirety of the jury or the entirety of the team heads, or I'm sorry, the team, which is talking about there, that's singular. If I start breaking it up and I mention its components being the members of the jury or the players head to the field, then you're getting into a plural situation. And we'll get some practice here to help us show that. And I think it's going to tell us a little bit about the drop-down boxes here. Let's see.
The quiz that follows this lesson contains drop-down items. To answer drop-down items, you will need to read the question carefully and then use your mouse to hover over the Select option box to see the answer choices. Then you will select the correct answer from a drop-down list. Let's practice with an item from the lesson quiz. To begin, we will read the sentence in which the first drop-down menu occurs. I'm sure your office receives many calls and letters asking about the league's various blank regarding player salaries. To complete this item, you need to select the answer choice that best completes the sentence. The word various indicates that there is more than one policy. This rules out the first answer choice. We now know that we are looking for the correct spelling of the plural form of policy. Because policy ends in Y, we know we need to drop the Y and add IES. Therefore, we know answer choices B and C cannot be correct. We will click on answer choice D, policies, as the correct answer.
Yeah, and the thing about these, right, the drop-down boxes and the paragraphs is just sort of looking for those context clues, reading through the sentence, and when you come to the box, if you have to, read through several of the answers and see what sounds best, what makes sense. With the spelling things, that's a little different, right? Because that's a matter of knowing the rule. Sometimes things will just sound right. So you can think about that intuitively as well. So as we go through here, I'll read through the paragraphs, and when we get to the drop-down box, I'll call on you guys individually to answer for us. So let's take a look here then at the quiz. Okay, and there's our rules again for pluralization of nouns. So if it simply ends in a consonant, for the most part, it's going to just add S, except for, things like CH or SS, you're going to add the ES. Same thing if it ends in O. And then for the Y, singular and plural, you're going to drop the Y and add IES. If it's next to a consonant, if there's a vowel next to the Y, then you're going to add just S. And then, of course, for those funky words like shelf and knife, you're going to change it by eliminating the F and adding VES. And then you change the form in some cases, and you don't change them at all in others. So, all right. And then what we have here for our test taking tips is collective nouns are singular more often than plural, right? That's what I mentioned. If you're talking about a group, a specific group, like the army, the jury, a team. So for clear writing, use a word such as members to indicate plural. For example, some group members attend the yearly meeting. So consider, how you're talking about that subject or that collective noun. And if it doesn't feel right to you, here's the other tip for you guys when you're writing. Okay, if you have a question about, like, it comes down to test day and something doesn't sound right or feel right to you, just reword it. Just keep it simple. If something's holding you up because you're unsure of how it sounds, or you're unsure of a definition or something like that, just choose another word and keep moving. All right. So now on to the quiz. Let's start with Etta. You want to read number 1 and answer it for us?
Okay, it says the company believes that its employees are hardworking. Which correction should be made to the sentence? What the C change employees to employees. A, change employee to employee. D, change company to companies, or B, change company to companies. The first one, change employee to employee.
Oh, what's going on here with that ordering?
I know, I was confused. Like, is I'm reading this right, or did they mix it up? Like, my eyes are over here. I just got my new glasses and everything today, and I'm over here
no.
like, what is going on with these letters? I know I'm not seeing them right.
No, you are. I just noticed that too. Yeah, it is C. You're right. It is the first one. I don't know what these people think sometimes. Yeah, it's C, right? So we have to add that ES. And of course, this is one of those weird exceptions too that we don't really get into. But yeah, so employee, well, yeah, so it ends in OY, right? So immediately they hit us with one of the exceptions to the rules that we didn't even discuss. So OY, you would think, okay, well, I would just add S, right? Employees, but that's a different word, right? That's actually a verb. So when you're talking about, employees as people working for you or working in a company or whatever, you have to add EES to correct that. So yeah, C. The first answer, however you want to look at that, they're not even in order up and down. Like,
I know.
it's crazy. Yeah, but it's C for number 1. Here we go. Okay, so I'll start reading through the passage. We'll get to you guys individually here as we get to the and we see in these drop down boxes that we do, a lot of times they're crafted as like a letter or a memo. You'll see that quite a bit. So, and get used to it, because we're going to be doing these pretty much for the rest of the unit. We're going to see these quite a bit. And think about the context too. So, dear MBA Commissioner, I'm sure your office receives many calls and letters asking about the league's various blank regarding player salaries. Let's go to Grace for this one.
Okay. D.
Yep, D. So we, using that rule for Y, right? So if it ends in a consonant and Y, we eliminate the Y, we add IES. So that leaves us with policies. So leagues, various policies regarding player salaries. I am hoping that you can provide some information that will help explain how the league determines the amount each player makes a year and the amount each team can spend on players. For many fans like me, the league's salary cap is very confusing. It seems as though some player salaries don't match the contribution that they make to their teams. The cap also seems to limit unfairly the amount a team can spend on players. For example, why can't my home team, the blank, spend what it wants on salaries if it has the money to spend? Sasha Gay, how about you take this one?
B.
B, yeah, Miami Heat, right? So that is a proper noun. In this case, it's a sports team. So, whenever you see like a city or a state, that's automatically, is going to be a proper noun. But any type of entity like that, like a company or a sports team, you're going to capitalize. So, why can't my home team, the Miami Heat, spend what it wants on salaries if it has the money to spend? I have done some research on the salary cap, and I know that it is negotiated yearly as part of the collective bargaining agreement that provides team owners with rules about how they can negotiate member salaries. I also understand that the salary cap is based on how much revenue the league took in during the previous year. Is team revenue factored in? Are there blank for sub teams to spend more money than others? And Tracy, I'll let you take this one.
Yes. D, D. C.
Yeah, C, right? So we just have to add S because it's vowel, Y, and then we put the S in there. So are there ways for some teams to spend more money than others? I know that the blank many factors when determining salary, including how many years a player has been in the league. Let's go back to Etta. This one's a little tricky.
I don't know. Is it the league ways? So is it A?
Yep. So now, thinking about our options there, kind of got into that verb noun agreement that I was talking about that we'll get into in depth later on. But yeah, so I know that the league weighs many factors when determining salary. League, focusing on that as a singular collective noun, right? A league will be comprised of a lot of teams, right? Like in the NBA, but in this case, we're looking at it as a single unit. So the league weighs many factors when determining salary, including how many years a player has been in the league. Can you provide me with a simple explanation of these factors? I don't understand the complicated rules governing exceptions, restricted and non-restricted free agents, the amnesty clause, the rules governing rookie salaries. Any information you could provide me would be very helpful. Sincerely, Wayne Mack. And we hit submit. And we're all lit up green. Okay. And of course, that is the end of the quiz. Told you these things go pretty quickly. So especially at the beginning when we're just going over parts of speech and stuff. So one was C. Our drop-down boxes were, the first one was policies, then Miami Heat, capital M, capital H for the proper noun, ways, W-A-Y-S, and then league ways, as in weight, W-E-I-G-H, there for the last one. Okay, submit. And we will move over to the workbook. All right. Okay. And here, so as it says above, a noun names a person, place, idea, or thing, right? It's always sort of a concrete object. Nouns can be singular, one person, place, idea, or thing, or plural, more than one person, place, idea, or thing. If the noun names a specific person, place, or thing, it is a proper noun, should be capitalized, right? Just keep that in mind. That's the difference there. It's talking about a specific individual, a specific place, a specific thing that's going to be capitalized. Some nouns refer to a group of people, animals or things, an army, a family, a herd, or a set, right? Deck of cards, things like that. So these are called collective nouns. Okay. So here we go. Study these examples to review how to form the plurals of certain types of nouns. So add S at the end of the word. So employees, right? Stock the shelves with fresh produce. So employee is going to have two E's, right? So you just have to add the S. stock the shelves with fresh produce, such as tomatoes and cranberries. So they throw in a bunch of different rules for plural here, right? So you have to change the F to VES in shelves. You have to add an ES because you have an O at the end, add ES at the end of the word, drop the Y and add IES for nouns that end with a consonant and a Y. And then the final one, the group, right? Perfect idea of a collective noun, right? A group of people. So the group caught several fish over the weekend. So you don't change anything there. Fish, what are those words? That's plural and singular. So I could talk about a fish, or I talk about a group of fish, or many fish, right? It's always singular. There's no change to it. Well, I shouldn't say it's singular, but there's no changing the word, whether it's singular or plural. And then our text on the side there says, be careful when forming the plural of a word ending in O. Most take ES. And again, right, it's English, so we're going to make a rule and then we're going to break it. So some common examples are zeros, heroes, and echoes. That is going to be the rule in most cases. Always down the road somewhere, there's going to be, some exception. You're not going to encounter that to any great degree, like on your exam, your GED test and things like that. They're going to try to make sort of clear cases for each example. And then the collective noun group is singular when members of the group act as a whole. That's how you kind of keep that clear, right? So when you write, the group is angry, right? So when all members are angry, you can speak about it as a whole, as opposed to some members of the group were angry, right? So then I am switching that up. So it is addressing the members, right? And I use the S on members to show that some members of the group are angry. So when you get more specific, that's usually when you start thinking about pluralizing. But nevertheless, unless you're talking about multiple groups, even if you're talking about members of a specific group, as long as you're talking about one group, that is going to be singular, not unless you get into talking about, teams or multiple armies, things like that. All right, what we have here. So the plural form of some nouns does not end in S. For example, the plural of man is men, the plural of woman is women, and the plural of child is children. So there are those other kind of strange rules where you don't add an S and you use some other mechanic to change the way it's plural. Those are your most common, right? When you're talking about men, women, children. And here we go. So our next multiple choice, how about Grace? You want to take number 1 for us here?
Okay. The legislature voted to build recycling centers in several counties across the state. Which correction should be made to the sentence? A, replace legislature with legislature. B, replace state with states. C, replace recycling centers with recycling centers. And D, replace counties with counties. D.
Yep. And look, they're all in the right order this time, A, B, C, D. So, right, so there's that rule, county ends in a consonant and a Y. So we drop the Y, we add IES. And this, again, is a good example of what you might see on the test, right? They're going to give you a sentence and then they may give you multiple options where, how do you need to address it? And, so like that first one, it's not talking about a specific legislature, right? If it was talking about like the Ohio State Assembly, you would capitalize that. U.S. Congress, you would capitalize that. But here it's not specific, so we'd leave that uncapitalized. We leave it lowercase. Replace state with state, same thing. If it was Ohio, if it was Minnesota, if it was something like that, we would capitalize it, but it's not specific. So we leave that lowercase. And then recycling centers, again, if it was a, Matt Johnson's recycling center, if it had a name, if it was talking about a specific location, you would capitalize it. But here, recycling centers, you're going to leave lowercase, okay? So D for number 1, D as in dog. And 2, let's go to Sasha Gay for 2.
Many calves are born each spring. Which correction should be made into the sentence? A, change spring to springs. B, change calves to calves. C, change spring to spring, or D, change calves to calves. Is it B?
Yep, B. So, and that's one of those ones also that once you change it, you also have another word. So I mean, you can have multiple definitions for that word, right? So not only is it a baby cow, right? When you're talking about calves, you could also be talking about somebody's lower leg, right? Right, your calf muscle or your calves is the same word. So thank you, English, for doing that as well. Or in my case, cankles. Or thankles actually, because my legs are just like one size all the way down. But you get the idea. There's always, but the same plural and singular applies no matter the definition of the word. But there's that rule where we use VES when a word ends with F, right? So we change that from calf and drop the F, add VES, calves to calves. So B as in boy for 2. And now we'll get into our drop down boxes here. And again, like it's another letter. So this one's an emergency notification system to all students from the registrar's office, emergency notification system. As part of a statewide effort to inform different audiences about major safety-related emergency news, blank plans to implement the new emergency notification system. Tracy, what do we say for this one?
A, Guama College. No. B.
So here we have a proper noun. So both Warner and college will be capitalized. We're talking about a specific, just like the recycle center, right? If it's not specific to a particular place, we would leave it lowercase. In this case, we're going to capitalize both Warner and college because it's a specific location. Okay, that's all part of its name, right? Warner and college, both parts of its name. So D, capital W, capital C. Warner College plans to implement the new emergency notification system. Beginning next semester, students and staff members will receive alerts from the new system regarding emergencies on campus. The college defines emergencies as situations that could pose immediate and significant harm to students and staff. These include, but are not limited to, extreme weather such as blank, fires, flooding, power outages, violent or criminal behavior. Etta, what do we have here?
Are you on the part one? My thing ain't dropping up. Is it at the tornadoes?
So yeah, yeah.
C as in cat.
Yep. Right. So we add ES because it ends with O. So tornadoes. OES to pluralize that. Okay. So tornadoes, fires, flooding, power outages, violent or criminal behavior, and unsafe physical conditions on campus. The system uses multiple delivery methods, including emails, voice messages, and text messaging. Emergency information will also be posted on the campus website. Staff members have been registered and have chosen a preferred delivery method. The default method of notification for students will be through the college email system. If blank prefer to receive alerts as text or voice messages, they should email the registrar's office. Grace, what do we go with here?
Okay. A.
Yeah, A, student body members, right? So the only thing we're worried about here is capitalizing member, right? Making that plural. So student body members prefer to receive alerts as text or voice messages. They should email the registrar's office. 10 blank are conducting tests of the new emergency system. So Sasha Gay, how we address that one? Oh, let me get all the options up there. There we go.
Is it C?
Very good. Yeah. So campus police officers, right? It's not specific. So it's just talking about the campus police generally. 10 campus police officers are conducting tests of the new emergency notification system over the next several weeks. Communicating emergency information is very important to us, and we thank you for your support in this endeavor. Yeah, so there, everything's going to be lowercase, and we also mentioned officers, right? So they're singling out. Campus police would be a collective noun on its own. So they could have just said campus police are conducting tests of the new emergency notification system, but they add individuals there and they tell us how many. So 10 campus police officers, we're going to capitalize officers. And also, of course, the other issue there is that it's going to be lowercase because we do not mention the specific police department. If it said, 10 Ohio State campus police officers, we would capitalize Ohio State campus police. All right. So there we go. Everything green. Warner College, tornadoes, student body members, and campus police officers. I think we've got 2 more paragraphs to do here. And again, let's see, Madison County Jury Services, serving on a jury. So, serving on a jury is an important civic duty. Your service as a juror is one of the most valuable contributions you can make to the justice system. Serving on a jury allows you to see how the justice system works and gain a better understanding of how our blank works in general. Tracy, what do you want to use there?
Sorry. A. Government.
I'm sorry, what was that?
A.
A, yeah. So it's just government, right? So it's not capitalized and it's not plural, right? Government, again, is a collective noun. Lots of people work in the government. But here, it's just a better understanding of how our government works in general. So A there. And the blank guarantees citizens the right to trial by a jury of one's peers. So back to Etta. What we use here?
Is it B?
There you go. right? Specific. So a specific constitution, a specific governing document being the Constitution. In this case, United States Constitution. So specific example, we're going to capitalize that. So the United States Constitution guarantees citizens the right to a trial by a jury of one's peers. The blank, it's decision based on the facts in a case. Grace. What do we use here?
D.
Yep, the jury makes. So verb noun agreement there. The jury makes its decision based on the facts in the case. The jury's decision must be fair and impartial in order to protect the rights of the person on trial. While serving on a jury, you will be asked to assume certain responsibilities. First, you should always be on time because a trial cannot proceed or end until all jury members are present. Second, you should not research the case you are deciding in any way. Finally, you should not discuss the case with anyone else, including your friends, relatives, spouse, or other jurors. After deliberations begin in the jury room, only the jury can discuss the case until the verdict is agreed upon. You are required to serve on only one trial. The length of each trial varies by the case. The judge will inform you how long your case is expected to last. Many cases last less than a week. A juror receives $40 per day. For information, contact blank at 123-555-1234. Sasha Gay, what do you think about this one?
C.
C, yeah, right. So proper name, right? Proper noun, we're talking about specific individual. So Arthur Collins there. $40 a day. That's not great. All right, so yeah, there we go. So A for the first blank, government. B, United States Constitution is capitalized. D, jury makes. And then C, Arthur Collins. And our last one for nouns here before we move on. So a memorandum to Food Smart Grocery Team from Alizetta, manager. Subject, new guidelines for produce section. As many of you know, sales in our produce department have declined over the last year. While competition from the new Freshway organic grocery has hurt most departments in the store, the produce department has particular problems. Not only are sales down, but we aren't selling what we have fast enough to prevent large blank of fruit and vegetables from spoiling. Tracy, need here.
We want these. C.
Yes, C, right? So we drop the Y, we add IES. So quantities of fruit and vegetables from spoiling. Although items in several departments spoil quickly, for example, spoiled blank is thrown out each day. Etta, we need here.
Is it A?
A, yes, so batches, right? There's another one of those words. It ends in CH. So to capitalize that, we're going to add ES. And of course, fish, singular or plural, it's fish. So batches of fish, A, is thrown out. For example, spoiled batches of fish is thrown out each day. Waste in our produce section has increased by 50% in the last year. To increase profits in the department and better manage our inventory, we are implementing these changes. The amount of each type of fresh vegetable on display will be cut by 25%. We will train employees how to arrange blank to maintain the appearance of a fully stocked department. Grace, what we need here.
D.
D, shelves and items. Yep. So we got a twofer there. So 2 rules, right? We're shelf is the singular for shelves. So we drop the F, we add VES, and then we have a very simple item that we're going to make plural by just adding S. So we will train employees how to arrange shelves and items to maintain the appearance of a fully stocked department. We will no longer stock some exotic fruits and vegetables, including sunchokes and porcini mushrooms. The fresh herb section will be reduced to the most popular herbs, such as basil and parsley. Our stock of fruit will include major staples like bananas, oranges, and apples. However, our stock of more expensive or less popular types of fruits, such as blank, will vary by season. And back to Grace. What are we using here?
Oh. D.
D. Yeah. Oh, wait. For the last one?
Oh,
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. No.
It's A, ain't it?
that A. It's A.
Yeah. So peaches,
It's
right?
A.
So we at ES at the end of the CH sound. So peaches and strawberries. So Y, we drop the Y and we add IES because there's a consonant next to the Y. There we go. What is a sunchoke?
I have no idea.
Sunchoke is? Heard of artichokes, but I don't know what a sunchoke is. Okay. So quantities, IES, C, batches of fish, A, we add ES, fish stays singular, shelves and items, VES, and items, we just add the S, and then peaches and strawberries. So that is the end of the workbook. Any questions there before we move on? That's fairly straightforward. Like I said, there's rules for how we change things to make them plural. They work the majority of the time. There's always exceptions to those rules. You should not encounter that much as far as in your GED test. So we'll move over to pronouns now. Follow up with that for our second part of the day. And we're going to be flying right through this. They'll get a little longer as we go. These first parts, when we're just sort of introducing the parts of speech and things like that, are a little shorter. But for unit 2, unit 4, lesson 2, now we're going to discuss pronouns, which makes sense since we just finished nouns. So by the time we complete the lesson here, we'll be able to define and identify a pronoun and use correct pronouns in writing. Oh, no, I'm going too far. Hold up. Okay, here we go. Well, okay, I see why. Let me try to refresh the page here. It's not giving me my next button at the bottom. Oh no, it's sticking. Here we go. Okay. All right, and short audio.
Pronouns are words that take the place of nouns. The noun that the pronoun replaces is the antecedent. Pronoun antecedent agreement means that pronouns agree in gender, male, female, or neuter, and number, singular or plural, with the nouns, antecedents, they replace. Depending upon their use in the sentence, pronouns may be subjects or objects, or may indicate possession.
Right, so it helps to keep your writing and even in our informal, conversational language from being repetitive. Because if I mention, if I'm talking about Grace and I have to mention Grace every time, Grace comes up in the conversation, it gets repetitive. right? So I use Grace the first time to introduce her, right? That's the pronoun antecedent agreement. And then afterwards, I refer to her as her or she, depending on the grammar rule. And same thing with inanimate objects. If I'm talking about my pen, I don't have to mention my pen every time it comes up in that paragraph. I can just use it, right? So, and you just have to make sure that the two are in agreement as far as, you know, the rest of your mechanics and grammar rules. So let's see what we have here. So our chart here lists subject, object, and possessive pronouns, and they can be singular or plural. So subjects, right? I, you, he, she, it, referring to those singular forms. Objects, me, you, him, her, it. We'll talk more about subject and object later. Possessive, right? So possessive pronouns, when you are assigning possession of an item to someone or something, then you have my, mine, your, yours, his, her, hers, its, our, ours, their, and theirs, depending on, you know, the usage there. But that's talking about an item that you're assigning to someone or something or a group. Plural, same thing. We, you, they for the subject, object, us, you, them, and then possessive. So our, ours, your, yours, their, and theirs. Okay, so we have some examples here. So the text says, remember that me is never the subject of a sentence, right? So you use I for a subject of the sentence. So the subject of a sentence, right? Charlie and I are dating, not Charlie and me are dating. One way to remember this, and it's not a 100% rule, but your subject tends to come at the beginning of a sentence. So if you're using I, right, then it's likely to appear at the beginning. If you need to use me as an object, so the subject is something else. Okay, a good example. Here's, you know, so she gave the gift to me. Okay, so at that point, I'm the object, and you notice that it comes closer, or in this case, right at the end of the sentence. So on the other hand, I gave her the book. I'm the subject. So I is at the beginning, me tends to come later in the sentence as an object. Again, we're going to get more practice with those things down the road. Just want to throw that out there. The second box says the possessive pronoun its is not written with an apostrophe. It's another rule when we get to punctuation and stuff like that that we'll talk about. It's, right? IT apostrophe S means it is. For example, it's dinner time. It is dinner time. Another word of advice: avoid contractions when you write formally. You know, for your extended response, you know, it's real easy to do, especially, you know, of course we use them all the time conversationally, makes things easier, but in formal writing, in standard English, avoid contractions, right? In professional writing, make sure that you do not use contractions. Here, though, of course, in plurals, what it's talking about, right? So you got two different words there. It's IT apostrophe S is going to be a contraction for it is, where its ITS is the possessive of IT, of it. In our examples, Charlie and I are dating, right? So we are dating. Different subject and verb there, subject and object. That is Zach's car. That is his car, right? So there's changing Zach to his, the plural, or I'm sorry, the possessive of he, singular, his car. Janet, Chris, and Richard are flying home. Plural, right? For a group, they are flying home. So the victory was mine and Paul's. The victory was ours, right? Eliminating mine and Paul and using the pronoun ours. Tell Cara and Francis the story. We're talking about two individuals there that make a collective, right? So tell them the story. And then the car's tires are new. So the car, that's a thing. We're going to use its. So its tires are new, using the possessive its, possessive pronoun there. All right, so let's take a look at our examples. Right. So opening up the quiz. And we have our table up here again. Pronoun forms. Again, I'll put that on Google Classroom. Make sure we always have some examples of the rules listed there. So what it says here is it is easy to misuse the pronoun they to avoid mentioning a specific gender. If you do not specify a gender, but your subject is singular, then you must write he or she. For example, each person can do what he or she wants. And that is the general historic rule. Of course, more lately, we have people with chosen pronouns, and that's sort of updated our rules to some degree because there are people, individuals that use they as their pronoun, like non-binary individuals, things like that. I mean, there are people out there that have chosen to use it as their pronoun. But, historically, when we're talking about pronouns, right, they is not gender specific. And then if we do know gender, then you do tend to use the he or she pronoun. Okay, so let's go back to Etta here for number 1.
Okay, it says Jonathan and Allison went to dinner after Jonathan and Allison went to the game. Which is the best way to rewrite this sentence? A, Jonathan and Allison went to dinner after them went to the game. B, Jonathan and Allison went to dinner after they went to the game. C, they went to dinner after Jonathan and Allison went to the game. Or D, they went to dinner after she went to the game. Is it B?
Yeah,
As in boy?
there you go. So we have a collective group. So Jonathan and Allison, right? We're talking about two people. So went to dinner. We use their proper nouns there. And then the pronoun when we discuss them again in the same sentence to keep that from being repetitive. Jonathan and Allison went to dinner after they being that plural pronoun that we're going to use, went to the game. So B as in boy. And then let's see here. So, all right, yeah. So on to our drop-down boxes. So First National Bank, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Mr. Paul Wilford. So, dear Mr. Wilford, first, let me express blank appreciation that you have chosen to place a business account with our bank when our company moves to Chapel Hill. Grace, how about taking this one?
Okay, mine.
Yeah.
D.
There you go. And this is one of those examples. If you're having trouble, read through it, see how it sounds, and that'll help tip you off. So let me express my appreciation that you have chosen to place a business account with our bank when your company moves to Chapel Hill. I'm sure you'll find that First National Bank will be able to meet your business's every need. We offer personalized service and the opportunity for each customer to access blank information 24 hours every day. Sasha Gay, what do we want here?
Sorry. I was entering on mute. Is it B
So
or his or her?
it is his or her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one, yeah, that's one was a
Both
little bit
of
tricky.
these, right?
So what you're looking at here is it's actually talking about individuals, right? We offer personalized service and the opportunity for what should tip you off each customer.
Yeah.
Right? So when it says that and it's addressing sort of the individual, we're going to use his or her. So yeah, C, so to access his or her information 24 hours every day. In addition to corporate checking accounts for both payroll and expenses, we offer short-term loans for qualified customers. It may be best for you to visit our small business experts at the bank to ensure a smooth transition for your accounts. Your advisor is Mr. J.B. Parks, who is located at the Elm Street branch. Blank secretary will call to set up an appointment. Tracy, what do we want in this one?
His secretary. His C.
Yep, C, his secretary will call. And this is one thing, like, you know, sometimes you just feel like you're reading, you know, like it's a filler, right? Like I'm reading these sentences, what does it matter? But context sometimes will be important. So like in this case, the sentence before, your advisor is Mr. Jamie Parks, right? So that's telling you the gender of the subject there. So who is located at the Elm Street branch. And that matters for the next sentence, right? Because it's gender specific. So his, C, his secretary will call to set up an appointment. If possible, please accept this, or what do I miss something? If possible, our president, Emily Ryder, and blank would like to take you to lunch. Etta, what do we want here?
B.
There you go. Yeah, so right, talking about subject and object, I here, this person is part of the subject of the sentence. If possible, right, along with the president, Emily Ryder, and I would like to take you to lunch. So be I there. And of course, please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any other questions. We look forward to serving you and Wilford Motors. So our quiz then, right? We have my appreciation using the possessive there, taking ownership of the appreciation. The next one, his or her, we're talking about individuals. So instead of they, we're going to use his or her. His, of course, being singular, possessive, his secretary will call to set up an appointment. And then I, being part of the subject, would like to take you to lunch. Okay. So go for pronouns. And again, a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. Noun being replaced by the pronoun is the antecedent. You might hear that word from time to time as we go through these lessons. So the noun being replaced is the antecedent. Writers use subject, object, and possessive pronouns to avoid repeating nouns and to improve the flow of text. Just what I was talking about, right? That's the main purpose. Once you have described, once you have spoken about a specific, person, place, or thing, then you can start using pronouns. So pronouns must agree in gender, male, female, neuter, or number, singular or plural, with the nouns that they replace. So this agreement is called pronoun antecedent agreement. We'll talk about verb subject agreement down the road, or noun subject or noun verb agreement. So it says, remember these three types of pronouns. Subject pronouns replace the subject of a sentence. Object pronouns replace an object. Possessive pronouns show ownership. And then we have a small chart here. So I, we, you, he, she, they, it, right? Subjects. Typically, not always, but typically they will come at the beginning of a sentence. Okay, so you did a great job on the test, right? So you see right there, subject pronoun coming at the beginning. They went to the movies, right? Subject of the sentence. Object comes later. It's usually receiving the action, right? Your object nouns or your object pronouns is what is receiving the action from the subject. So me, us, you, him, her, them, it. Their example, Tommy is the subject here, right? So Tommy helped us choose a computer for a good price. Us then is the object, right? Tommy helped us. So the action, right? And the object is receiving the action from Tommy. So choose a computer for a good price. I told them not to come. So here, I is the subject pronoun, told them, object pronoun, not to come. Then possessive, right? Showing ownership of an object or a thing. Mine, our, or ours, yours, his, hers, his, her, or hers, their, theirs, its. And their examples, the store offers good deals for its extended warranties, right? So the store is the subject, and it, right, is the pronoun there. Possessive is going to be its, no apostrophe, right? No apostrophe before or after. We'll deal with apostrophes down the road here and get a little technical with how you use those, where, when, and what place. So it's extended warranty. And then is this book his, right? So the possessive pronoun for he or him is going to be his. Okay, and this says on the text that the possessive pronouns mine, ours, yours, his, hers, its, and theirs take the place of two nouns. So both the subject that possesses and the thing that it possessed. For example, you can write that that is hers rather than that is Jana's book. Hers is replacing both Jana's book, right? So two words there, two nouns to think about. Okay. Starting up the workbook. And let's take a look here with our using logic text. So although the noun and the pronoun that replaces it usually appear in the same sentence, sometimes the noun appears in a previous sentence. As you read or write, be sure that you can trace each pronoun back to a noun. So yeah, like I said, it doesn't have to be one sentence. If you've introduced something, in a paragraph, as long as you're continuing to discuss that person, place, or thing, you can use he, she, it, or whatever the pronoun may be. If you start, discussing another subject, you would need to, then any pronouns are going to be discussing that, right? So, but yeah, you can use that for multiple sentences, the pronouns, as long as the antecedent remains the same. Okay, and here we go for number one. Let's get back to Edda. Take care of number one for us here.
Okay, it says after Tony and I watched the game, Tony and I went to the restaurant to meet some friends. Which is the best way to write the underlying portion of this sentence? A, Tony and I, B, us, C, we, or D, me and Tony? Is it C?
See, yeah, we, right? So talking about subject pronouns, right? So Tony and I are the subject, and then watch the game. So Tony and I went to the restaurant. So we're going to use we, because Tony and I are still the subject there. So C as in cat, we for number 1. And Grace, how about number 2?
Okay. Jennifer and Luke used Jennifer's car. Which is the best way to write the underlying portion of this sentence? A, his or her. B, she, C, his, and D, her. D.
There you go. Yeah, straightforward. Just eliminating Jennifer again. Overusing that, avoiding the repetition. So D, her. And again, if you're having trouble with it, sound it out, read them all, see what makes sense in that place. So D for 2, and a couple paragraphs here to get through. We're going to start with a letter. So problem with our celebrity culture. Let's see what we have here. So dear editor, in today's high-tech world, mass media and globalization maintain our celebrity culture. The internet allows information to be transmitted around the world. Blank makes details about celebrities almost impossible to avoid. Sasha Gay, how about you take this one?
They, A.
B. Yeah, it makes details about celebrities almost impossible to avoid. So our antecedent, right, is the internet. The internet is the subject there. It's the antecedent that precedes it. So the internet allows information to be transmitted around the world. It, right, referring to the internet, makes details about celebrities almost impossible to avoid. When a person turns on blank television or opens a web page, there it is, the latest gossip. Tracy, how about taking this one?
Person turn on their television. B.
For yep. I'm sorry. Did you say B or D?
A person. D. His or her.
His or her, D. Yeah. So talking about individuals again, when a person turns on his or her television. So if it said when people, right, we would use turn on their,
Yeah.
but here we're going to use his or her, and that's the possessive too, his or her television, or opens a web page. There it is, the latest gossip about who has found a new girlfriend or which couple is breaking up. Although some famous people, such as actors or athletes, want desperately to keep their private lives private, the media seem to want to know everything about them. This frenzy of information is fueled by the people who buy magazines and newspapers or watch entertainment programs. They want to know everything there is to know about blank favorite stars. Etta, how about taking this one?
Is it D?
D, there. Yeah. And Nilda, you just joined us. We're in lesson 2 in unit 4. We're working on pronouns, and we've been flying through it today. We are already in the workbook. If you want to open that up and join us there. So yeah, so their favorite stars, D. All right, and continue on. This intrusion intrusion into privacy sometimes causes negative reactions. Some superstars have physically attacked journalists or photographers who aggressively seek fresh information or try to get new pictures. Society needs to re-examine blank priorities. Grace, how about taking this one?
All right. 8. A.
There you go. Yeah, so society is a thing, right? Even though it's talking, it's pretty much about people, right? That encompass a society. That's a collective noun there, and we're going to talk about it as a thing. So the society needs to examine its priorities. Does society really need to know everything about famous people? Do we have a right to invade privacy just because someone is in the public eye? All right, so our paragraph there, it is our pronoun for the internet. Our antecedent was the internet. When a person turns on his or her, our pronouns there, because we're talking about individuals, and they're possessive, so his or her television. They're taking ownership of the television. Their favorite stars, once again, possessive of ownership of their favorite stars. They want to know everything there is to know. We see early on, right? We've used several pronouns here. So they. So we're still talking about people. They want to know just generally, people that are consuming information on celebrities. So there's another use of pronoun. And then it's priorities. ITS, no apostrophes there, for society. Antecedent being the society for its. Okay. Next up, another memo. So all McMahon employees, human resources, absentee policy, August 1st, 2013. Coming to work when you are sick can be as hard on your coworkers as it is on you. Blank can spread disease and illness and cause others to miss work. Sasha Gay, what do we want to use here?
You.
You can spread disease and illness and cause others to miss work. Yeah, so A there. You can spread disease, although we hope all employees will make every effort to come to work when they are well. We encourage employees who are ill to stay home when necessary. Therefore, McMahon Construction has implemented the following rules to help you know what to do if you are too ill to come to work. Call your supervisor as early in the day as possible. If you can't speak to blank directly, leave a message. Tracy, what do we want to use here?
Gracie.
Tracy.
Okay.
Tracy.
Yeah.
Sorry. If you can speak to her, to him or her.
Him or her. Yeah. D, him or her. Call your supervisor as early in the day as possible. If you can't speak to him or her directly, leave a message. Leave a message for the HR department so that blank absence, why is it not? Okay, blank absence can be noted in your employment record. Back to Etta.
C, your.
Yes. Your absence can be noted in your employment record. If you miss more than 3 consecutive work days, you must obtain a release from your doctor before returning to work. Employees are allowed 5 paid sick days per calendar year. Any additional sick days will be unpaid and the employee's status may be reviewed. Employees with excessive numbers of sick days may be asked to provide detailed information explaining the reasons for blank absence from work. Grace.
B. Dear.
There, yeah. So employees with excessive numbers of sick days may be asked to provide detailed information explaining the reasons for their absence. And right, the antecedent is employees. So we're looking at a number, right? The plural, not gender specific, but a large number. So it is there. Okay. So you, for our first box, a him or her. The second, your absence, right? Possessive pronoun, taking ownership of your absence there, your absence. If you miss work, and then addressing a large group, not a collective noun, right? But a actual group of people. So we're going to refer to them as their as the pronoun, right? Okay. So moving on, our last one here, our holiday get together, Richard's blog, September 3rd. Since almost everyone in my family takes Labor Day off, my aunt and uncle decided to host a family reunion. The sun was shining and the smell of burgers and hot dogs on the grill was making my mouth water. Who could have predicted that my wife and I would be ending blank day in the emergency room? All joy. Sasha Gay, how about reading this one for us? Or answering this one.
Our day, B.
Our day. Yeah. Who could have predicted that my wife and I will be ending our day in the emergency room? Antecedent being my wife and I. And remember, that's a subject still, right? My wife and I are the subject. Things started to go wrong when my aunt asked me to carry blank prize-winning potato salad out to the patio. Tracy, now we'll take in this one.
Her. B.
Yep, her, right? So she's the antecedent. My aunt asked me to carry her prize-winning salad, potato salad, out to the patio. I forgot that all of the kids have been running in the hose earlier. Okay, you can guess what happened next. I slipped in the wet grass. And the potato salad flew everywhere. My wife ran over to check on me, and although I was trying to act cool, blank ankle was really throbbing. Etta.
My ankle.
My ankle was really throbbing. That is something I have said multiple times. I've got some bad ankles. My ankle was really throbbing. She helped me up, and my ankle went for, and my uncle, she helped me up, and my uncle went for some ice. Even though we tried to hide it, I could tell that the kids were really laughing. The ice helped relieve the pain, but after an hour, my ankle had swollen to the size of a softball. My cousin Dan volunteered to drive my wife and me to the hospital, and blank offer. Grace, what we need here.
A.
We took up his offer. So here we have multiple pronouns, right? We, talking about my wife and I, or my wife and me, right? Because that's the object now. And cousin Dan being his. So a little more complex antecedent there. My cousin Dan volunteered to drive my wife and me to the hospital, and we took up his offer. We arrived during an extremely busy time because my injury was not life-threatening. It took nearly 3 hours for me to see a doctor. As we're leaving, a nurse explained that the holidays are often busiest time of year. You'd never guess, she laughed, how many family get-togethers end up here. Okay, there we go. Submit. All right, and let's see, Nilda, you're talking about number 3. Did you get the multiple choice? 1 was C. 2 was D, as in dog. And yeah, so there is 3. So it was it for the first one, his or her television, or opens a web page. Next drop down box was there. And then finally it's. Okay. Any more follow-up on the workbook? Okay. No problem. Here we go. So submit that. And yeah, so at the start of these, we're just dealing with like parts of speech. We're probably going to have shorter lessons just to sort of get us thinking larger ideas.